Welcome to Greg Hjorth's Greatest Hits, and the game we'll be looking at now was played in Adelaide in 1979, the second last day of 1979 actually. It was the Australian Championship and it was the big breakthrough tournament for Greg Hjorth. He was 16 years old and in this tournament he finished second. He was challenging for first place up until the end. The game I'm going to look at in round 4 was one of the games that indicated to people that he really was going to be challenging for the title. He was playing against a player called Serge Rubanraut, not well known outside Australia, but only a few years earlier Rubanraut had run through a very strong field in Sydney to win the Australian Championship himself, and subsequently played the Chess Olympiad for Australia in Haifa. So Hjorth against Rubanraut, a 200 rating points difference. Rubanraut rated much higher than him, but Hjorth really took Rubanraut apart in this game. So it started out as a Sicilian, and on move 2, white played f4. Now the Grand Prix attack, as it's become known, is quite a regular opening nowadays, but back in 1979 it was considered one of Greg Hjorth's eccentricities, and it's to his credit that a number of the strange opening lines that he used to play, people used to think they're strange, nowadays they're considered a form of main line, and f4 is one of the main anti-Sicilians. So after knight c6, knight f3, already Rubanraut made a marginal error by playing d6. Nowadays, if you want to go g6 and bishop g7, you do it immediately, because if white goes bishop b5, you can always jump in with knight d4. After d6, bishop b5 is strong, and then after bishop d7, castles, g6, knight c3. And this is just a better version, in fact a very good version for white of a main line. Now black played e6 with the idea of knight e7 and castling, but he just didn't seem to have time for it. Perhaps a6 is a reasonable idea here. You could play knight f6, there is a danger that e5 will come in, but and even knight h6 has been played by players like Smyslov. It's not so bad either on h6, but after e6, f5 is extremely strong. And already there are big problems here for Rubanraut. Of course he can grab that pawn on f5 in a number of different ways, but he will open up the d5 square for the white knight, and white will have either knight g5 or bishop g5 attacking along the f line. He probably should play e takes f5 and bishop takes f5 and grab a pawn and hope for the best, but it's not an easy position. If he plays knight g7 here, white will probably play bishop g5, and all of a sudden the f6 threat is a bit annoying. So there's no easy way out now for black. Rubanraut took with the g-pawn. One of the typical ideas here for white is queen e1, queen g3, but Hjorth just took back on f5. Well, it's ugly, but maybe black should block with e5. He tried knight d4, and now he really starts getting blown away. Bishop g5, first excellent move by Hjorth. Black could play knight takes f3 check and win that bishop, but it just doesn't work. Take, queen takes g5, and now the simplest is bishop takes d7, and if you take back, queen takes b7 wins the rook in the corner. So he has to block somehow. He can't play knight e7 anymore because of f6, so he tried bishop f6 after takes, knight takes, takes. All of a sudden this position is falling apart for poor old black. Now Rubanraut got a bit desperate. He took on c3, which clearly is going to lead him to be blown away. But if he takes back with the f-pawn here, white can even play knight e4, try to decoy that knight away, and then play queen h5 check and mate that way. One way or another black is going to lose material. So he tried taking on c3, take on d7. Maybe he could run away with king f8, but then I guess queen f3 is going to kill him, so knight takes. And here it's just a question of attacking that f7 square. And Hjorth starts playing this part of the game extremely well. He starts with king h1, avoiding queen b6 check. Black has to get out of the pin. He tried king f8. If he castles kingside, then queen g4 will just win the knight, and taking on b2 is absolutely irrelevant after rook b1. So he moved his king. We're threatening mate with queen h5, knight e5, and the knight can easily be decoyed away with d4. And, well, this is more or less all over, I must admit. but the way Hjorth finished it off was rather good. After knight g6, bishop c4, f7 is more or less dead, queen c7. Of course you could play rook takes f7, but Hjorth really wants to put the boot in. Queen d5, takes, check, and Rubanraut could have resigned here, but he played on a couple of moves until Hjorth was winning his queen and mating him, and it was a huge loss for the former Australian champion, and Hjorth went from strength to strength. The previous round he'd dropped his first draw, so I think he was up on 3.5 out of 4 after this game, but and ultimately finished in second place. It was a remarkable result for a 16-year-old. Of course, nowadays when you've got 15-year-olds like Bobby Cheng winning the Australian Open, or 12-year-olds like Anton Smirnov vying for first place in the championship, it doesn't seem so great, but certainly back in the 70s, for a 16-year-old to achieve that was rather remarkable.